Well, hello again from Border Home Inspection. Today I want to talk about propane again because it always reminds me when it gets to be minus 40 temperatures that it's important to prepare for that type of temperature. So we live in Canada. If you live somewhere else, then it's probably warmer. There's probably some colder areas, not much colder than this. So I wanted to talk about some of the pitfalls of heating with propane in particular. If you're on natural gas, which most of us are, I'm not, but if you are, then this isn't a problem. But I know lots of people have this problem, and I bet you this morning alone, there's probably 50 people in my area that have no heat, and it's minus 40. So that's cold. And I just want to talk about some of the things that you can do to prepare for this, and some of the pitfalls, I guess, of heating with propane. I've done this video multiple times, and I want to do it again because I think it helps people. And I know the feeling of waking up at 5:30 in the morning and having no heat, and more or less panicking. And I'm a pretty capable guy. Like, I know what's going on and I can figure it out, and I can get it going again. So I'm not panicking too much. But if you're a single mom living in a trailer in the middle of a field and you have no heat, that's serious. So let's talk about some of the things that you watch for, some of the things you can do to prevent problems. Okay, so here we got a boiler, and it's running on propane, and you can see it's warm in here. It's beautiful. I have no issues here this morning, even though it's minus 40, and there's a reason for that. So I want to point out something I noticed here. See the frost build up around that fresh air intake? That's one of the problems you can have even with natural gas. So if you're drawing combustion air into your heating system from the outside, and a lot of times it's only 1.5 inches or 2 inch, 2 inch I guess, that could frost right off. So if your furnace goes down at home in the city, let's say, or wherever you live, check that. Make sure that that's not plugged off with frost on the outside. Months, okay? So, and I've done videos about this separately, but I'm going to try to compilate them all into one video here. So what I've done here is I've twinned 2,000-gallon tanks together. So that gives me enough propane to run for the whole winter. That does two things. That gives me more vapor pressure when the temperatures are low like this. So for instance, just recently, I emptied this tank, got it down to 5%, and then I switched over to the new tank, to the full tank, and it had 75% in it. So that means I got a lot more vapor pressure, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But basically, this is a good way to save money as well. So if you buy your propane, say, late August, when prices are low, demand is low, then you might be able to fill these two tanks for maybe $500-600 less than filling one in August and then filling it again in February. Okay, so that's a hint for you to save some money. It does cost a little extra to have two tanks in your yard because you got to rent them, but it's well worth it. Something else that I just started doing is, you see that little Nevo right there? Okay, that monitors the volume in the tank, and it sends a signal, a phone signal to the internet, and then I get it on my phone. So I can monitor the rate of decline in the tanks, for instance. So if I'm on vacation and the tanks are declining, let's say they're 1% a day or every 2 days, and then all of a sudden they're not, the volume in the tank's not changing, that tells me that it's not using propane. So it tells me that the systems, that the heat systems have shut down, and that's important to know. So that's one of the reasons why that's a good system to have, and you can get those from your propane company, most likely. All right. So the other thing that I've done is, I know that the regulator is the most vulnerable part of the system. If it gets cold and the wind is blowing, minus 26, stop moving propane to the house at minus 26 because there was a strong wind and it caused the regulator to frost up. Okay, so again, vapor pressure in the tank, the more volume you have in your tank, the better, and that gives you a little more of a chance in this weather to keep the propane flowing. So what I've done was I've boxed this in and I put a heat lamp in here, just like a chicken, just a red heat lamp. Now I want to say, for safety reasons, this is not the best way to do this. This is the way we've been doing it for decades, but it does pose a little bit of risk to, if you had a propane leak and that bulb burst all of a sudden, there is some possibility that you could have a fire, an explosion. So I want to say that, there are other options to adding some heat to the tanks. And why do we even want to add heat to the tanks? Again, propane will boil until it gets to minus 44. Once it hits minus 44, you could take propane out of this tank, set it in a pail on the ground right here, and it would stay in the pail as a liquid. It won't boil. If that's the case inside the tank, if the tank gets down to minus 44, or the regulator or any part of the system, then it will stop moving, it'll stop gasifying and moving towards the property, to the house. So you have to keep that temperature above that. You don't need much. 2 or 3 degrees is all you need. So that's why the heat lamp basically prevents things from liquefying. You can rent or buy intrinsically safe propane blankets that go over the tank and keep the tank temperature above that boiling point. And they're expensive, but if that's the way you want to go, you can do that. I also have a magnetic heater for my tractor, block heater, magnetic heater, and that can get stuck to the side of the tank or something like that. Again, all you have to do is keep that temperature above minus 44. So that's it for this one. Hopefully you've learned something and it's helpful to you.